So hey guys, welcome. Thank you again for joining me. This is our critical contract mistakes webinar where we're going to talk about the secrets to writing contracts that open up your business, build your business, help your clients feel safe and comfortable. You're going to hear a lot of cat noise in the background. We travel the country with our cats. We've been on the road for a couple of weeks. We've got a few more weeks on the road, so all the fur babies go with us everywhere. We've got 5 kitties and a puppy. And over the last couple of days, all the animals have appeared in the calls. So will she, okay, so the puppy's gonna, this is Sophie. She has to meet everybody now. She's our 7-month-old pug. Hi, baby. I know. She just woke up. She just woke up. So she had a nice nap and she's ready to have a great day. And she's, if you imagine a puppy, all the characteristics of the puppy and multiply them by 10, that's this one. She's a 10x puppy. As we get into it, I want to start off with a couple of questions to kind of get real about things. My first question is, how many of you have contracts with your clients right now? You can drop a yes or no in the chat. You can unmute and shout it out, whatever you're more comfortable with.
There she's back.
Hi, puppy. I know. So I saw a couple yeses. I see a bunch of no's. Some more no's. Interesting. Emily, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Oh,
Oops.
can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I do have a contract with one client right now. And one of the things I'm wondering about is like a money back guarantee. I've heard from another consultant, and I do fundraising consulting for nonprofits. And I've heard from another consultant, don't put in a money back guarantee, put in a conditional guarantee, meaning that if they do the work, they're going to see the results, but they have to follow through on the work and I have to be able to see that. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. So that's a question I have for today.
Yeah, so I don't know if we'll address that question specifically today, but at the Q&A time at the end, we might be able to get to that. So after we get to the content.
Great.
So, but that's, I mean, it's a common question that people have, right? Do I do refunds? Do I do guarantees? How do I structure them? You know, it's very common. You're certainly not alone in wondering how to structure that.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the Q&A time at the end, if we have time, I'll see if I can address it a little bit. So it's interesting, you know, I saw a handful of yeses, a lot of no's. This is a bit of a trick question, and you'll see why in a minute as we get there. And then the next question I have is, I would love to hear some negative reactions. Oh, Beverly, I just saw you raised your hand. Did you have a quick comment?
Yeah, I work in the virtual reality world, you know, and so we build real estate in virtual reality, and we make contracts with our clients. And so that's some of the things that I was interested in. Is that different using virtual reality contracts versus real world, you know, dirt contracts, shall we say?
That's interesting also. So why don't we kind of address that in a while.
At the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so this question you just asked here on the negative words and feelings.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have heard from clients is what does this get me locked into? What do I have to do? Right? It's like, I mean, where do I go with this? It's like, what does that actually mean? They're really confused on that contract. Like they're going to have to spend money every month or do something every month. So that's what I hear all the time for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So negative reaction from clients. What is the commitment? It's too complicated. Is it confusing? What am I have to do? What am I locked into previously? For sure.
Yeah.
Karen, yeah, legal jargon, right? What other sort of negative associations, negative words, negative feelings come up when you guys think about contracts?
Sometimes they ask, how long is this going to be? And what if something changes? Can I get out of it?
Mhm. Right. Well, and that all depends on how the contract is written, ultimately, right? You have contracts that are hard to get out of, some that are easy to get out of, in between. They're very flexible. That's the thing about contracts. You can make them do almost anything you want. There are some things they cannot do. There are a lot of things they can. A long, detailed, confusing, some self-doubt. Can you deliver? Interesting. Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys for sharing. So a little bit about me. Several of you have worked with me before, been on my trainings or my classes, so I always appreciate seeing you guys, and I love meeting the new folks as well. So for those of you who have not met me or worked with me, I'm Ian Foster. I'm a practicing attorney. I've been doing this for a long time, got my law degree in the late 90s at University of California, Davis. I spent 18 years as a government business and tax attorney. So I've done this from the government side. I've investigated, I've audited, I've prosecuted, I've seen like on the front lines, how the law affects real business owners of different kinds on a day-to-day basis. I'm the president of my legal practice, the law offices of E&C Foster. I'm the chief financial officer of Personal Empowerment Services. This company, most of what we do is produce educational programs, empowering programs on the law, taxes, and critical thinking. Excuse me, got some of the candy stuck there that I was eating. I'm the chief legal officer. I got something. Yeah. I'm the chief legal officer of Golden Health Initiative. We're a healthcare services company, and we're on a mission to bring better access and more affordable care, especially to like underprivileged, underserved communities where there's a hard time getting access and care. So it's a great mission to be on, and I like being a part of that too. And so I want to get into kind of these mistakes, you know, jump right into them that I want to talk about. And so I'm going to have like these mistakes and then kind of the secrets for getting out of them. And you'll see why I asked these first two questions up front. So that first one, when I said, do you have a contract with your clients? Well, the number one mistake is thinking you don't have a contract when you really do. It takes very little to create a legal contract. And if you have paying clients, you have at least one contract with every paying client, whether you know it or not. For the vast majority of kinds of contracts out there, they don't have to be in writing, they don't have to be notarized, anything like that. They don't have to say, except with a few requirements, they don't have to say specific things. If you've offered services to somebody and they've accepted the services and they're paying you for it, you have a contract with them. It may be a very simple verbal agreement, or it may be that the terms are outlined in an email or on your sales page, but there is a legally binding contract if you have paying clients, whether or not it's written down, whether or not you know it. Because the threshold for creating a legally binding contract turns out to be super low. And so a lot of us are out there entering into contracts all the time without realizing it. And it's also the word contract, right? It doesn't matter if you use the word contract or not. Using the word contract, not using the word contract, that's just kind of the general legal term that we use for having these legally binding terms that outline the relationship between people. Whether you use the term or not, doesn't matter. And so the secret to that, as far as I'm concerned, is being intentional about it. As long as you have a contract, whether you know it or not, why not be intentional about it? Instead of having a verbal agreement or agreement, you know, based on some maybe ambiguous emails back and forth, or a sales page, which is really more about marketing than law, why not be intentional about what the terms are? Instead of having something that's creating danger for you and creating danger for your client, let's do something that's fair and protects everybody and makes it clear to everybody what's going on and makes everybody feel better about it. So to switch it up a little, I'm curious what sort of words and phrases you guys can think of that are just synonyms for legal contract. If contract just means these are the legal terms that govern our relationship, what are other words and phrases you might use other than the word contract? Because it's not the only one. Agreement, yeah, definitely lots of people said agreement. Scope of work, I like that. Scope, you know, in fact, I recently drafted some scopes of work for the company I work for. Terms of agreement, yeah. So a lot of different ones, right? You might also use terms like terms of use, terms and conditions, informed consent. Yeah, criteria can be a word for it, definitely Virginia. Things like waiver and disclaimer and disclosure. Karen, good one. Memorandum of understanding, absolutely, right? And it's funny because there are folks who sometimes think an MOU is not a contract, but it is. It creates everything you need to create a binding contract. Yeah, MOU is a common one. In fact, I recently drafted some MOUs for some school districts that they're entering into with people. I wouldn't say guidelines, interesting, Beverly, right? So guidelines is probably one that I wouldn't put in there because guidelines legally tend to be more like suggestions. Although you can call the document anything you want, as long as it's clear that things are binding on people. So cool, thank you so much, guys. Now, let's talk about the next mistake. And this, again, has to do with one of the questions I asked up front. You're going to see why I asked it, is these negative feelings and associations we have about contracts. And this is very common, right? To think that they're scary, they're too complicated. I hear it all the time, like, I don't want to have contracts because it ruins trust, not realizing that you have contracts in place with the clients already. They're just dangerous, verbal, ambiguous contracts that don't protect anybody, but you do have a contract in place. And so there's this notion that if we have a contract or if it's written down, that it means we can't have a good relationship, it can't trust each other. And this is basic law of attraction stuff. Get a lot of coaches and healers coming through my programs, right? A lot of you guys know basic law of attraction stuff. You're going to get what you focus on. That's Jasper. There's the first kitty to appear on the call. So if you think contracts are scary, if you think they ruin trust, if you think they're too complicated, if you think they're hard to understand, guess what your clients are going to think, right? There's no surprise. The puppy's trying to get Jasper. Come here, puppy. You know, it's no surprise your clients are going to think that if that's what you're thinking. And people go into it all the time with, oh man, I'm so sorry. My lawyer makes me use these contracts, right? I know it's complicated, but we just have to do this. If you go into it with that attitude, then of course your clients are going to be scared of signing the contract, and they should be, quite frankly. I would be too if somebody came at me with that attitude with the contract. So the secret to this is to start to adjust our mindset. You know, and there's ways we can do this. You know, start realizing that contracts exist to protect your clients as well, not just you. Contracts certainly could be one-sided to protect one person, and who cares about the other person? And plenty of contracts are like that. If you've ever tried to read the contract you have with your credit card company or with your mortgage company, not great contract, right? They're super one-sided. They exist to protect one side and hit the other side over the head with a hammer. I could help you draft contracts that are like a hammer that you could hit people over the head with. I'm not gonna. I have no interest in doing that. I personally find it to be unethical and it's against my values. So I'm not gonna help you draft like contracts like that. To me, contracts should be fair to everyone. If there's consequences for your client for something, then you should have to suffer the same consequences on your end. It's only fair. If it protects you, it should protect your client. It should be fair to everyone. It should be clear and understandable to everyone. It should promote trust, right? Not ruin trust, not be there to scare people, but it should exist in order to create an atmosphere where everybody understands what's happening. We're all doing it voluntarily. We know what our rights are. We know what the boundaries are so that we can be transparent. We can all make an informed, empowered choice and trust each other. A good contract that's fair and empowering promotes an atmosphere of trust for everyone. And those are the kind of contracts I like to draft. They're the contracts I help people learn how to draft. They're the contracts I draft for my clients. And it can be written clearly and simply to help your clients feel safe and confident, right? It doesn't have to be that hyper-complex legalese. It should be clear, it should be simple, it should be written in a way that makes people feel comfortable. And if you come at it with that attitude that, hey, this is here to help us have a good relationship. This is here for both of us to be transparent with each other so that we can trust each other and so that we can work together to experience transformation. If you come at it with that attitude, your clients are going to have a whole different response to the contracts you ask them to sign versus coming at it with, 10 pages of complicated legalese and being like, oh, dang it, I have to give them a contract to sign again. I hope they're not scared away. Well, they're going to be scared away, versus a couple of pages of clear, simple language that's fair to them, that protects them, that promotes trust. You're going to have a whole different reaction from your clients when you come at it from that way. And contracts, like anything else, are a tool, right? A hammer is a tool. You can use a hammer to build a beautiful house, right? You can also use a hammer to tear down a house. Same thing with contracts. Again, I could teach you to use contracts like a hammer to tear things down. I'm not going to do that. I have no interest in doing that. It's not consistent with my values. I'm guessing it's not consistent with yours either. You probably wouldn't be here, right? I would rather we use contracts as a tool to build things up. Yes, to build your business and to build your visibility, but to also build the relationships with your clients, to lift your clients up and build them up as well. You can use contracts for good, just like you could use them for bad. And I want to use them for good, to build those good, strong relationships. So to switch it up then, now, earlier we asked for the negative feelings. Now let's ask for some positive words and feeling, right? It can take time to adjust mindset. You know, those of you out there, those transformational coaches, those mindset coaches out there, you know that this doesn't always happen overnight, but let's start practicing, okay? So let's drop it in there. What are some positive words, positive feelings you can start to associate with contracts so we can start to build those neural pathways, start to build the habits? Promotes clarity, safe and protected, protection, confidence in collaborating. Speaks to partnership, yeah, right? A partnership because you're working together with your client. Clarity and transparency, absolutely. So you can see how already just shifting that mindset a little, and it's okay again if it doesn't happen overnight. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. Same thing here. Start working on that mindset. Start thinking about it. Remember what was said, definitely Beverly, right? Because often if we just have a verbal agreement, how often are you and the other person going to remember things exactly the same way? How often does anybody remember things the same way? How often do we ourselves remember the same conversation the same way that we did yesterday? Memory is fallible, and we all hear everything through our own lens and our own traumas and our own experiences, right? This way it brings that clarity. It's transparent. Awesome, thank you. So the next mistake is that thinking contract language has to be complicated, or that it is complicated. Now, there is a time and place for complicated legalese, right? Legalese exists for a reason. It gets a bad rap, but it has a reason. Legalese exists to be hyper precise and hyper clear. And once you learn how to read it and how to write it, it is the most precise and clear written language there is. But it's not for every circumstance. If you come to me to make help you make a $10 million business acquisition, right? You want to go and buy another business and incorporate it into yours, and you're going to pay them $10 million. Yeah, we're going to have a pretty complicated contract for that because it's a super complicated transaction. There's a lot at stake. We have to have hyper complicated legalese in that case. That's a time and place for that. But the contract between you and your clients, between you and maybe some people working in your business, people who are helping out, no reason to have complicated language. The contracts, especially between you and your clients, are not the time and place for complicated legalese. So the secret there is to use your own words and make it simple and understandable. Simple, understandable, just use your own words, right? It doesn't have to be that hard. It sounds like it is hard. And like anything else, it can seem hard at first, but the more you practice at it, the better you get, like anything else. So use your own words because you'll understand it. If you wrote it, you'll understand it. And that's key, right? You want to understand your own contract. A lot of people out there using contracts that were written for them, or templates maybe that they paid way too much money for, and they don't understand the contracts they're using in their business. That's not great, right? It's important that you understand your own contracts, for sure. If you're going to try and ask your clients to understand it, you should understand it. And if it's in your own words, your clients are more likely to understand it. Why? Because they're accustomed to hearing your voice. You know how to speak to them. This is your audience. You know their language, so you'll get it, your clients will get it. And coming from your voice helps your clients feel comfortable. right? They're already comfortable with you. That's why they work with you. They know what your voice sounds like. They know what your attitude and your energy feels like. So if you're putting your energy into it, and if you're putting good, positive, open, trusting energy into it, that's going to come off in how you write it. It's going to come off in how you present it. It's going to come off in how your clients receive it, right? Your clients are not paying you to hear my voice. My clients pay me to hear my voice. And boy, can I drone on and on, right? I'm a lawyer. I can definitely drone on and on too long. But your clients are paying you for your voice and your help. So your contract should reflect that. So I'm curious, and it's okay if the answer is no, especially if you're kind of new at this, right? Do you think you could take a stab at writing a simple contract yourself? Do you think you have it in you to try it? If you knew the building blocks, if you knew the basic pieces that had to go in there, do you think you could try it? See a lot of yeses. That's great. Awesome. Good. A lot of yeses. I want you guys to have confidence doing that, right? There are attorneys out there who think you cannot do it. Right? That's obviously not me. I literally teach classes on how to do it because I know that people can do it. If you have what it takes to serve clients and run a business, you have what it takes to take a stab at writing one for yourself, especially the simple ones for your clients. I think they're doing yard work outside right now. I don't know if that's too noisy or not. Let me know. And so mistake number 4 is thinking, I can't do this. I cannot. Now you guys are already saying you can, which is great. We're going to do it right outside right now, aren't they?
Yep.
Oh, good. Thank you. You got that. Right. So too many people think they're just not able to do it. And this comes from a lot of things. It comes from a lack of knowing, you know, and often that state of I don't know can bring up fear and anxiety. I literally, as it happens, teach an entire course on how to be comfortable saying I don't know. A couple of you in here have been through it. But I don't know can be very empowering. And so I try to teach to find power in that state of I don't know. But sometimes that I don't know what I don't know can cause fear and anxiety. It's the fear of the unknown. The fear of I don't know what goes into it. I don't know what to say, right? But then that becomes a fear-based reaction in the decision. So the secret there is just knowing that you can. And I get that it's easy for me to say that, right? But it does take some encouragement. It takes some practice. It takes a little guidance. It takes learning what building blocks go in there. And you start to see that you can do it. Elaine, is called Life's Problems Made Easy. I'm sure you're on the list, so you'll see it come up next time it runs. So some tips for giving it a try to give yourself some confidence. 1, use plain everyday language. Don't try to write it in complex legalese. Don't try to write it the way you think I would write it. Don't try to write it the way you think a lawyer would or should write it. That's where you're going to get in trouble. Plain everyday language is so much better. Even some of the big long contracts I write for big business stuff, I try to use as much as I can plain everyday language. Keep it short and sweet. Don't write 3 paragraphs when 3 sentences will do the job just fine. Don't write 3 sentences when 1 sentence will do the job just fine. Keep it as short as you can. And now this one is going to sound obvious, right? Say what you mean. You're thinking, well, of course I would say what I mean. Why wouldn't I say what I mean? Well, I say it for a reason. You would be shocked at all the contracts out there where people are not just saying what they mean. They dance around with doublespeak and stuff. I was recently negotiating a contract for a client. We got to a paragraph. It was half a page long, this huge long run-on paragraph, and I could not figure out what the other side would meant by that. I had no idea what they meant. So I called up the other attorney. I said, what do you mean by paragraph 4? And they said, well, I meant X, Y, Z. And so I said, well, can we just say that? If you meant X, Y, Z, why don't we just say X, Y, Z? We got rid of a half a page and put 1 sentence in. Just say what you mean. I have seen some business deals go south very bad because the people who wrote the contract didn't just say what they mean and nobody knew what was going on after that. I have seen, in fact, I use it as an example sometimes, but I've seen a contract for a big retreat, overseas retreat. Big money, a lot of people traveling, a lot going on for this overseas retreat. And I could not figure out from it just by reading the contract. I didn't know who's paying who, how much, or when. Well, shouldn't I be able to read the contract and know who's paying who, how much, or when? I couldn't figure it out. No surprise, financially, that whole thing ended up being a big mess. A lot of people didn't get paid because somebody didn't just say what they meant when they wrote it. And then, of course, learn what these building blocks are, right? There's going to be different building blocks to the contract. Some of you were in the 5-day challenge I did last week, where we talked about some of those building blocks, right? And it's like getting a box full of Legos. You're gonna start with a small handful. You're gonna get to the little set of Legos first, so you can build a few things out of it. You can build some program terms or one-on-one contract. Then we're gonna get some more Legos. You can start building other kinds of contracts. You're gonna get some more Legos. Pretty soon, the more you try it, the more you have it. You have all these building blocks, and you know that, oh, I need a new contract for this new part of my business. I already know what the pieces are. I'm just gonna go pull them and build it and stack it up. So you learn what the building blocks are. So would you guys be willing to give it a shot if you had those building blocks, right? I mean, what have we got to lose, really, by trying? Awesome. Some yeses, some yeses. Karen, that's literally why you're here. There you go. You're in the right place. Awesome. A lot of yeses. Good to see that. All right, so let's, how about this? How would you guys like it if I gave you a cheap, simple contract template you can use for all your contract leads? Would you guys like that?
It sounds great, Ian, but I think that the building block idea is what is key, because there's bits and pieces that are going to be different depending on who your client is, what the concepts are, who's paying who for what, time frames, etc. Right?
Yeah. See, so Karen's a step. She knows where I'm going with this, right? She's guessed it, right? You want to know why I can't give you that template, right? It doesn't exist. A cheap, simple template for all your contract needs doesn't exist. And anybody who says it does is probably committing legal malpractice, quite frankly, because that's just not how contracts work. It's not how the law works. Contracts are fact-specific things. There's no template that works for everything. There are occasional templates that can work for limited things, but they're highly niched down specific templates, right? So I have a client who does urban farming. He creates rooftop gardens and backyard gardens for people in the big city who want to grow their own vegetables, right? So he hires people to dig ditches and build farms. So for example, for him, I created an employment template to hire people who dig ditches in the city. That's a template that he can use for a very specific limited purpose because it has all the right pieces and building blocks in it. You know, I created a template for a healing coach or an energy healer, but I know her modalities. I know what she's certified in. I know how she serves her clients. So I created a template for her to use in her business. But again, it's just for her. It's niched down. It's specific to her business. And it only has a couple of blanks to fill in. If I tried to give you a template that you could use for everything, it would just be a bunch of blank pages. It would say something like, insert this piece here if you need it, but don't if you don't need it. And then it would say, insert this next piece, but only if that applies to you. Don't put it in if it doesn't apply to you. That's what that template would look like. It would not be super helpful, right? So those kind of templates that don't exist, and people who are selling you those templates may not, in my mind at least, may not be doing the best work. And so that mistake number 5 is this over-reliance on templates. This is very big in the online industry, in the coaching, healing, transformational industry, a lot of over-reliance on templates. And I get why, right? Especially if you start with the negative feelings about contracts, which is why I work so hard to try and adjust our mindset to get us thinking positively about contracts. Because if we come in with the negative feelings, if they're scary, they're complicated, they're hard, I don't want to deal with it, we're going to look for the easy solutions. We're going to look for the easy button, and somebody's going to hold up the easy button and say, my template is the easy button. Right? And so it's so easy to reach out and punch that easy button. I get why we do it. I totally understand the mindset of wanting to buy an easy button template. But it's, again, it's based in lack of knowledge. It's based from a place of disempowerment. Because when you feel empowered in the law, when you are standing in your legal power, you don't feel the need to lean on something like that, on a template that you don't understand, that may not work for you, that may do you more harm than good, right? So again, those templates aren't the easy solution they seem. And the secret to me is standing in your power, getting an empowered stance on the law, having a positive mindset about contracts. And now you're not coming from a place of fear. You're not coming from a place of disempowerment. You're coming from a place of knowledge and power. And when you start taking a stab at it, like we said, all you guys out there are willing to take a stab at writing for yourself. And it's okay if the first time seems hard. The second time is going to get a little easier, then it's going to get a little easier. It's like anything else. You keep trying, it gets easier. Before you know it, you've written a few of these things, and now you have building blocks and puzzle pieces that you're just going to copy and paste as needed because you know what they all mean. So templates, troubles with them is they end up being one-size-fits-all solutions to a fact-specific problem. So Karen, as you pointed out, you're totally right. It totally depends on how you run your business, what service are you offering, right? Not all pieces, I could give you a template, and some of those pieces might apply to some of you. Some of them certainly don't apply to some of you. And it's also going to be missing pieces you don't need because I don't know what you're doing in your business. I don't know your business. I don't know your clients. I don't know your modality. Now in my courses, I build community and I get to know you and we get to know each other, right? But if I just sell a template for anyone that wants to come on and buy it for whatever, I don't know what anybody's doing with that template. I have no idea if it's going to work for you or not. And neither do the people who download it. And I'm not interested in providing a fake easy button that ultimately is going to hurt people and cause harm. That to me does not, that's not in alignment with my values and how I want to run my business. It's certainly not in line with my professional ethics as a licensed attorney. Contract templates also tend to contain overcomplicated language, like, that legalese we talked about. Often it's full of that legalese and they don't help you understand what it means, why it's in there, why you should have this provision in instead of this other provision, why you should take this thing out, put this thing in. They don't come from a place of power, right? Sophie, here's the puppy outside.
No, come here, no.
The puppy spent a couple days in the van leading up to this, so she's got a lot of energy. Trying to take her on frequent walks. So what's next in your legal journey? Let's look at that, kind of some next steps. Because we all got to go somewhere from here. And some of us are in different places along this. And I call it a journey because there's, like so many other things, transformation stuff we're trying to work on, it's a journey. So if you think in terms of contracts, right, you might need some program terms and conditions. Maybe you run an online program or a group of some sort. It's going to need some sort of terms and conditions that people agree to. That's going to have certain building blocks that go into it. In fact, last week in my 5-day challenge, that is exactly what we worked on, building blocks that go into your terms and conditions for your program. Some of you may still have one-on-one clients, which is great. VIP clients, or you like working one-on-one, especially if you're doing healing work on people, maybe doing one-on-one work. I have a private legal practice, right? That's obviously one-on-one work. Do you think my terms and conditions for my program look anything like the contract that my private legal clients sign? They are completely different documents. They look different, they read different, they're organized different, they have different stuff in them. Maybe we're going to do a mastermind, right? Get together a small group of people who keep coming back and you meet every week, every month, you work together, help each other out. That's going to look a bit different. Maybe there's a content provider agreement, right? So maybe you're helping to create content for somebody else's program, or they're helping to create content for your program. That's going to look different. Who owns the content? Who's responsible for what? How are you splitting the revenue? How does all that work? Is it licensed? I mean, there's 1,000 ways to handle it. That'll look different. What about an affiliate agreement? Any of you guys use affiliates? Do you promote people as affiliates? Do you have affiliates promote any of your services, right? Do you need any sort of agreement in place for that? These are all just examples off the top of my head of contracts you need. These are certainly not an exhaustive list, but these are common things you're going to need in your business. So that's contracts, right? So we can move that over. Now, what about, say, live events or virtual events or retreats? Okay, you're going to need agreements for the services when people sign up. You're going to need travel waivers. You're going to need event waivers when people get there. You're going to need consent for recording audio and video and marketing, right? If it's a virtual event, the consent form does not look like the consent form for a live event. Virtual events, I think, are here to stay, but live events are also coming back. I attended a live event last weekend in Dallas. I'm at another live event this weekend in Fort Myers. So it's been nice going to events again, right? But I've seen people use their waiver for their live event and then take it and use it for a virtual event or vice versa. Big mistake, because they're not the same thing. Different risks, different things you have to be considerate of, right? What about compliance issues? There's a ton of different legal compliance issues, from professional licensing laws to business registration laws to local taxes you might have to pay, right? And not a lot of business coaches or even attorneys out there talking about these compliance issues. A lot of these are getting ignored entirely. There's a big risk in the coaching and healing industry right now with regard to these compliance issues. Governments are starting to notice. You know, you may have heard the term Wild West out there, like being in the coaching healing industry is a bit like being in the Wild West, which it has been, but the sheriff is in town now. Unfortunately, the sheriff has come to town and starting to take notice of how things are being run. And the people who are not taking compliance issues seriously are going to be in some trouble. The people who take the law seriously and are taking steps to comply in good faith, even if they're not perfect, don't really have a lot to worry about. Your business entity, right? Are you going to form a corporation, a limited liability company, a limited company, a partnership, a limited, you know, there's different kinds of entities. And this sort of sometimes depends on where you live and what country you're in. Sometimes they're called different things. There's national associations, right? How do you form your business entity? How do you choose the right one? How do you use it properly? What are the steps you need to take? What are the agreements you need to place with your business entity? And then there's just sort of all the rest, right? You need insurance. A lot of people buying the wrong kind of insurance out there, and they're shocked when their claims are denied because they didn't understand what they were buying. You know, it's funny, I get a question all the time. A lot of people ask me, Ian, what does my insurance cover? You'd be surprised how often people ask me, Ian, what does my insurance cover? What do you think I answer? I give everybody the same answer every time. What do you think it is? My answer is, I don't know. I haven't read your insurance policy. I didn't buy your insurance policy. Yeah, see, I don't know. How would I know what your insurance covers? I wasn't there when you bought it, and I haven't read the policy. Tax planning is an issue. Doing business laws. How many of you have heard of doing business laws? Not a lot of folks have heard of these, right? These are a huge legal compliance issue that much of this online cross-border industry is out of compliance with. And how many programs and people out there are teaching or talking about that? Nobody, right? How to prepare in case you do get audited. I was a government investigator and auditor, so I role play that stuff with you, show you how to prepare on the off chance that it does happen. We reduce your risk of it happening, but it still does happen for various reasons. So how do you prepare so you're not afraid of it, not worried about it? HIPAA, for those of you that collect health information from clients, you're going to have issues with HIPAA and similar laws. Every nation, HIPAA is what we call it in the US. Actually, Australia calls their version HIPAA or something similar too. But every country has a health privacy law. And you don't have to be a licensed doctor or licensed behavioral health specialist for it to apply. It applies if you're collecting client health information electronically, whatever you're doing. So now the thing is, I don't want this to be all overwhelming. It can seem overwhelming, and it's totally normal if looking at all that, it's normal if it feels intimidating. It's normal if it seems like a lot, if it feels overwhelming, right? So we just take a deep breath. We're always in my classes taking deep breaths together, right? And realizing it doesn't have to be scary, it doesn't have to be hard. How do you build a big brick house? One brick at a time, right? How do you get legally compliant? How do you reduce your risk? How do you keep your clients safe? How do you build a scalable business? How do you become more visible so that you can do more good work in the world and make a better living for yourself at the same time? One piece at a time. We do it one piece at a time, and we try to make it easy as we go along, right? So we work on making the contract part easy. You know, dealing with events and groups, which work on making it easy. We make the compliance part easy, and we do it, again, one piece at a time. It doesn't all become easy overnight, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be. Again, I'm not trying to sell you a fake easy button. We take each building block, each piece, and we make that one easy. We work on it, and then we go to the next one. One piece at a time. It doesn't have to happen overnight. That's fine. Building your business entity and the rest of it, we try to make all this stuff easy for you. But it's doing it one piece at a time. It's not a magic pill. It's not a magic button. We work through it together. So that's why I have my program, Legal Protection Made Easy. And we start with building this basic legal foundation. And a lot of this basic legal foundation, like you're seeing on today's class, is about our mindset. It's about how do we approach the law. If we approach the law in fear, we're going to get what we're afraid of. If we're terrified of getting audited, guess what's going to happen? If we're terrified that our contracts are going to scare our clients away, guess what's going to happen? There should be no surprise about what's going to happen, right? If we're terrified that if we earn more money and grow our business, that the government's going to come after us and that people are going to target us with lawsuits, guess what's going to happen? They'll come after us and we'll become targets. Or we will sabotage ourselves and hold ourselves back from growing and being visible and helping people to keep ourselves safe, right? So we work on our mindset. We feel that legal power. We see that you can learn this stuff, you can understand it, you can come from it from an empowered place. And then on that foundation, we start to build a structure of legal compliance. We start putting up that structure so that you're legally compliant and don't have to worry about this stuff. We talk about the unique applications to your business. And in fact, in my courses, we get together in groups, right? I run it with the live Q&A calls in the groups so that we can get together and work through this stuff together. You get to see how it applies in your business, the other person's business, the other person's. We give each other feedback. It's a judgment-free zone. We build community, we build trust, and we learn this in a group. Learning this stuff in a group makes such a huge difference versus just trying to listen to me go off in pre-recorded videos, right? We talk about the maturation of the business, going from being self-employed to being a true business owner. So you guys out there, you understand that, you know, often it's easy to say, I want to go work for myself. I want to get into business so I'll have more free time and not have to work so hard. How's that working out for some of us, right? Not as well as we'd hoped. And look, I get it as much as anybody, right? We work more hours in our own business. We're spending more time trading hours for dollars, sitting with our butt in a chair in front of the computer, whatever it is we're doing, except now we're working for a worse boss than we used to at the company. Because who's our boss now, right? It's us, we're our own boss, and boy, are we much harder on ourselves than any boss we could have had at some company that we used to work for. So how do we get away from being self-employed, employed by ourselves, doing busy work, to being a true business owner? So much of that starts with legal compliance and understanding the law and coming from a place of legal power. It changes everything in terms of how you view the structure of your business, how you grow your business. It opens up possibilities. It starts to remove the blocks from growing because you understand the stuff and you're not afraid of it anymore. And then, of course, making that concrete plan in action. And so what would it be worth to make that easy? Again, one piece at a time. And so what are some of the specific things we go through? Well, we talk about writing the different kinds of contracts, your one-on-ones, your groups, your program terms, right? Content providers and business partners, all this different stuff. We even talk about things like employment contracts and hiring contractors. You learn the different building blocks so that you have that box full of Legos so that you can start stacking them up. You can start practicing, putting some contracts together. And then when you need new ones, you go back in your box and you have more pieces. We learn those building blocks. What are the specific legal issues for events and groups, right? Are you going to run groups or one-on-one, big groups, small groups, live events, virtual events? That all makes a difference in how it works out. So understanding those different legal issues. How do you form a scalable business entity? You know, a business entity, again, usually meaning a limited liability company, a corporation, a limited company. There's different terms for it depending on where you are. But how do you form that business entity? How do you build it properly and use it properly so it works for you and is able to lift your business up and make you more visible and help you more people? How do we work through these compliance issues, professional licensing laws and other legal compliance issues that nobody else is talking about out there, but that are one of the huge big risks in the online coaching healing industry right now? These things are shutting down more businesses than anything, and yet nobody's talking about it. It kind of drives me nuts that other attorneys are not talking about this stuff. I don't want the government to shut you down, but I also don't want you to shut you down, because you shutting yourself down is no better than the government shutting you down. You are called to do the good work, so let's do the good work. Let's do it by being legally compliant and understanding how we can help people within the law so that we can be visible, we can grow. We don't have to worry about putting ourselves out there and attracting attention. And how do we plan to create that safe space? Again, it's not just about protecting yourself. This is not just about layering yourself in a fancy armor suit. It's also about creating an umbrella of protection over everybody, over the clients you serve, over the people you work with, so that everybody feels safe together. And again, what would it be worth to make that easy step by step if we could do that for you? So this is an 8-week group program. It does have online learning modules that are broken down into little bite-sized chunks, right? So each one is brief and you can go in, you can learn that piece, and I try to organize it logically. So again, we make it easy step by step. Worksheets, quizzes, exercises, printable stuff to help you absorb and implement the information. We go through real life examples in this course because I want you to learn from people who have made mistakes so you don't make the same mistakes. So we're going to use real life examples of people who have done it the wrong way so you don't have to learn the hard way like they did. We're also going to use real life examples of people who did it right. So you can see how it works out when somebody does it the right way and learn from that. It's an 8-week program. We'll have at least 8 live Q&A calls, and I tend to stay on the Q&A calls as long as I need to. You guys are making an investment of time and energy into your business and into building and helping your clients. So I'm going to stick around on the Q&A calls and get your questions answered. And on those calls, we do a lot of role playing. You know, we go through real examples, we answer your questions. We role play through it to remove the fear and anxiety. Again, I was a government auditor and investigator and prosecutor. That's what I did for 18 years. So we can role play through. Okay, you got the nasty letter in the mail, you got the phone call, how do we handle it together to remove the fear from that so you're not concerned about it? And we do a lot of love seat coaching, right? Where we can coach you through that part of it, you know, the legal issue that's pertinent to you and your business. Other people get the value of watching that. Because remember, if you have the question, almost everybody else has the same question. And you get the value of seeing other love seats. And we do this by, I work hard to try and form a good, caring, trusting community. I try to be very careful about the energy you put out there. I had a lot of people go through my programs. I've only ever had one person ever who did not fit energetically into the loving, trusting community. And that person sort of weeded themselves out, as they tend to do. Everybody else has been a tremendous fit. They're caring people. They're loving people. They have a passion for service. They're called to do good work in the world. And so we get in here and help each other through it. And so what would it be worth to have that level of access and help to get through this stuff? So you don't have to do it on your own, right? So you're not relying on templates that may or may not help you. You may or may not understand. You're not relying on scary legal stuff, right? You're not relying on some lawyer who tries to take your power away. There are lawyers who not real good about empowering you, right? A lot of lawyers who just tell you what to do, don't listen to you, don't want to hear it, you know? They'd like to tell you no a lot. No, 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 no. Okay, yes, you can do this, but then no, 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 no. Right, it doesn't have to be like that. Some of my clients who have been through this program, so Stasha in Florida, I'm in Florida right now. It's beautiful outside. Ian does a great job breaking down complex subjects into understandable bite-sized pieces. This enabled me to be strategic about going through the course so I can focus on the legal tasks that are priorities in my business. Craig in North Carolina. If you're setting up an online business, you need to start with this course. If you're already running a business, take this course now. I paid gobs of money to quote unquote famous instructors, and now I see they were steering me wrong. Ian's course is incredibly important, not only to protect yourself and your clients, but to protect your business from the big names who may not have your best interest in mind. So what Craig was referring to was he had gone to some big name business coaches, and a lot of them giving a lot of bad legal advice, a lot of bad legal guidance coming from a lot of non-lawyers out there in this industry who are steering people wrong. And it's kind of, we need more lawyers doing what I do who are going to steer people the right way. Jennifer in Wisconsin, if you're not sure whether to sign up for this program, go for it. Ian's personality is open and friendly. He explains the law so well, I can sleep well at night and not have to worry about whether my coaching business is at risk. Check it out. Definitely every coach needs to have this. And that sleeping well at night to me is priceless. I don't want you to worry about this stuff. Even if we don't worry about it consciously, this becomes a subconscious block where we act about fear, we sabotage ourselves because we don't understand the law and we're concerned. If we get big, if we make money, if we live the lifestyle we want, if we help lots of people and do good work, we'll be a target. We'll be a target for the government, we'll be a target for the lawsuits, we'll be a target for scam artists, we'll be a target for tax audits, you name it, right? You don't have to fear any of that stuff if you understand. And if you're standing in a place of power, you can stand tall and stand proud and be visible and do the good work you're called to do. So if you were to pay my hourly rate for me to just teach you all this one-on-one, I just went and added up the hours, so it would be about 15,000 or more. If you were to pay my hourly rate for me to do all this for you, draft all the documents, set up the business entity, you're looking at 30,000 or more. probably significantly more if I'm really doing it all for you, but then you're not even learning it all, right? And the thing is, every business decision you make has a legal consequence and a tax consequence. Every business decision you make, right? And so these big companies out there making billions of dollars, do you think they think about the law with every business decision they make? You bet they do. They have an army of lawyers to advise them on every business decision they make, right? This is getting your own little army of lawyers in your head so that you have the power to understand what these are, the consequences, before you make the decisions. If you were to pay my hourly rate to defend you in just one lawsuit, one relatively simple lawsuit, you're looking at $70,000, right? So if you think in terms of minimizing risk and not having unnecessary investigations of lawsuits, that's what you would say. Now, if you're able to enroll during this launch, you'll get instant access to all the online learning modules, the worksheets, the exercises, and the quizzes. That stuff is preloaded. Some people like to get in and go through it quickly. Others like to go through it slowly, but you get to go through it at your pace. And you get to schedule live Q&A calls, and you'll get recordings of the calls. I get not everybody can make every call, and that's totally fine. I understand that. It's hard to find call times that work for everybody all the time. So we record the calls for you. And very importantly, the call recordings are limited only to the people who join this run of the program. Nobody from last year is getting these recordings. Nobody from next year is getting these recordings. I'm not selling these recordings. I'm not turning your personal information into a new course to market to other people. I don't think that's very cool. I don't want to do that. I would rather that we be able to trust each other, that we be able to open up on the calls, knowing that the recordings are limited to this run of the program and that some stranger is not going to see it 3 years from now. Participate in the Q&A calls. Try to show up as many as you can, because again, I work hard to create a good, caring, loving, no judgment community. Learn from the real life examples, learn from the role playing, learn from the love seats that we're going to do, right? And I do have a couple of launch bonuses. So the first is my Create Your Contract workshop. So kind of like we talked about today in this training, right? Contracts, the best ones should be clear and concise. They should be customized with the right building blocks for your needs. They're written in plain, everyday language. They're not templates. They're not written in my words. They're written in your words. So we get together for half a day. Actually, it's about 6 hours of content. It's 6 hours of hands-on working where we get together and draft our contracts together so that everybody comes away from the day with a contract that they've worked on that they can use in their real business. And during the day, we're getting instruction on what building blocks do you need? What do they mean? Do you need it or not? Get feedback from me on the things you write. Get feedback from your fellow people as we break out into small groups, right? So it's a hands-on, get your hands dirty, write something real and tangible. At the end of the day, you can print it out, you have something you made, right? I like to print it out. It gives me a sense of accomplishment. I used to work in manufacturing, my first career in manufacturing, and sometimes I miss. I used to have a hunk of metal at the end of the day, and I'm like, I made this, right? Sometimes I miss that. Now I work in the information industry. It's not quite the same, you know. So this is a great follow-up to the legal course. You've learned about contracts today. I've been doing a lot of free trainings on contracts this month. We're going to talk more about contracts in the course, and this way, in this workshop, you get to follow it up by actually showing up, working through, hands-on, drafting a contract that you can use, and doing it with my guidance, with feedback from other people. So it gives us some encouragement. It gives us some motivation to actually sit down and implement the stuff that we're learning. And then a half-hour private consult with me is the other launch bonus. So you can use this to understand your legal risks in your business. You can figure out what you need to work on. Some people use this private consult to figure out what do they need to focus on in the course. Other people use it to create a plan. All right, what should I work on first? What should I work on second? What's your biggest risk? What's your second biggest risk? What do you need? What do your clients need, right? Now, I can only do this for the first 5 people who sign up after this call. I can't do the half-hour private consult for everybody. If I offered it to everybody, it'd be all I do all the time. So it's only the first handful of people to sign up after each training. So for the first 5 people who sign up after this call, you'll get the half-hour private consult as well. So enroll during this launch, you get legal protection made easy. So I value that at $15,000 just because in terms of my hourly rate, if I were to teach you, it would be at least that much or more. To me, the peace of mind and the empowerment and removing the blocks and being able to grow and scale your business are sort of priceless. The Create Your Contract workshop, I value at 2,000, because if I were to just sit down with you and draft one contract for you, that's about what I charge you, and you just get one out of it. But this way you get the practice and you get to do it. And now you get to keep, using that skill to do it again. A half-hour private consult, I just put in, look, that's what I would charge. If you called me up today and said, Ian, I'd like to pay you for a half-hour consult, that's what I would charge, is the $600. So that's 17,600 in real world value. And the everyday course investment is $24.97. That's what it's up for year round. The price is $24.97 for this course. Now, during the launch, you can get started for as low as $717 plus 2 more payments. So if you want to do the 3-payment plan, you can get started for as low as $717. I think it's technically $717 in some sense, I forget. Or you can, if you want to save more money, you can pay in full for the launch price of $19.97. Right, so you can go to legalprotectionmadeeasy.com if you're interested in signing up, and there's FAQs on the site. There's more testimonials for those of you who want to check it out. You can use the coupon code LegalPower. That will get you in for the 20% off, and it will make sure you get the launch bonuses. And I can drop it in the chat in case anyone wants to click on it. So it's legalprotectionmadeeasy.com. The coupon code is LegalPower. And so that will get you, again, the 20% off launch bonus. The coupon code works on all of the payment plans. So use what works best for you. And then you'll get the free entry into the contract workshop. And if you're one of the first 5, you'll get the free private half-hour consult as well. Now, I will say a couple of you, so my continuing students always get the best discounts. So there are a couple of you in here. If you've been in one of my courses over the last few months, you know who you are, watch your email. You actually have a different coupon code to use because my continuing students get a little bit of an extra discount if you keep taking the next course. So I'm happy to, so there were a couple questions. I'm happy to answer a couple questions about the content, about the course. I can stick around for a few minutes for you guys.
I have a question for you, Ian. I don't know if this applies to other people, but I'm in a situation where I'd be developing course content and requesting an upfront fee for the course development before I actually deliver it. Would it be silly for me to allow people to pay for that, not upfront, but to pay for it in sequential payments? Would that be?
I would know, it wouldn't be silly. I mean, it sort of depends on your circumstances. I would have to know more. There's different ways to structure that, right? There are good reasons to do it up front. There are sometimes good reasons. I've seen it done both ways, right? I've seen it done for an upfront payment. I've seen it done dripped out for a royalty and license fee. I've seen it done based on a percentage. I've seen it done in a lot of different ways, or a various combination. So it's more of legally, it's no problem to set it up whatever way you like once you learn the contract building blocks. It's just a matter of business-wise what works for you in that.
And if you put it in writing,
Yeah,
how you will eventually get paid, it could be acceptable. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, always put it in writing, right? You never want confusion about something like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, when things get confused, it doesn't mean the other person is a bad person. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means you perceive something one way and somebody else perceived it another way, which happens all the time. It'll probably happen while we're, when we go out to dinner with friends tonight. So, Beverly, yes.
So if you're like doing different membership levels of different memberships and stuff like that, should there be a contract agreement in what is involved in that membership and the monthly payments and things like that?
There should always be a written contract for every business relationship you have.
Okay.
Right? So I would never answer no. If your question is, should I have a contract for a fill in the blank business relationship? My answer is yes. And I don't care what you fill in the blank with. It's just a matter of learning what building blocks go into it so that you know each time what you're putting together, because this relationship is different from that relationship. This course is different from that course, different from that mastermind, right? So that's why you learn the different building blocks. But if the answer is, do I need a written contract for fill in the blank? It's yes, it's always yes.
Okay, so, and then like I mentioned earlier on the virtual reality stuff. So with virtual reality being not touchable, products, it's all intellectual property type of things. Do the same laws, the contracts and stuff, do the same laws apply in that virtual reality world as they do in the what we call the planet world?
Well, basic contract law applies to any business relationship, right? It doesn't matter whether it's tangible or not. And people buy and sell intangible things all the time and still need written contracts for them.
So then virtual reality would be what you're calling intangible.
Yeah, what we call intangible, right? So
Okay.
if you buy and sell stocks, look, when you buy course content, you bought something intangible.
Okay.
For the people who sign up my course, you're getting a license to access my intangible intellectual property. And we have written terms that cover that.
All right. Thank you.
Let's always imagine, look, what if there was a disagreement over the verbal terms? What would happen, no matter what the business is, right? You still have to have something to enforce, something to fall back on. It's all about what building blocks you put in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other questions? We're good? Okay, cool. Thank you guys so much. I'm very grateful for everybody's, oh, thanks, Jan. Yeah, and I will have a good time. And for those of you outside the US, I teach the content at a level where it's accessible in all English-speaking countries. I mean, contract law under English common law, which we all derive from, contract law is contract law, right? And the legal compliances, the basic principles are pretty much the same everywhere. And so I do get a lot of people from Canada, Australia, the UK joining the program as well. So thank you, everyone. Very grateful. Appreciate your time today. I hope you have all a great day.
Thank you.